hello, and here we are back with our two heroines from Through Sunken Lands. We are still on the cusp of playing our first adventure, solo adventure. What we need to do is we need to take a look at, before we even start on what we rolled, we want to take a look at their possessions. So we have Ifyanasa, our thief, or licensed rogue actually, and she has leather armor, and she has a dagger for which she has a -1 to damage, because she is not very strong, but she has a short bow which she has a +4 to hit in, because she has a dexterity bonus of +3. And why does she have a 4 then? I have to check again. What did that? Sometimes these things, these things are never easy when you're learning a new system. Did this come from her? Because it's her base attack bonus. So that's 1. And basically you add your base attack bonus to your attack, your 2 hit. So and she also wears leather armor, which means that she has an armor class of 10, because that's the basic armor class that everybody has, +3 for her dexterity, +2 for leather armor. So she has an armor class of 15. However, Hanapshili has a long sword, so she has a +1. She has a strength +1. Her base attack bonus is a 2, so that's a +3. But since she has the longsword weapon specialization, she gets a +1 to the attack, so it's a +4, and a +2 to damage. +1 for the strength to damage, and what was the special strike again? Special strike. See page 13. Okay, I have no idea where she got this, because she has the weapon. Oh, it's actually called Great Strike. That's a knack. and gives her +1 to hits with melee weapons. So basically, she has a D8 for damage +2, +1 for strength, +1 for great strike. So on a D8 +4 she hits, but she doesn't have any armor. So she has 418 silver. So what we're going to do is we're going to give her leather armor. Which is +2 AC. So she is at 12. Oh yeah, this stays. And she is down by... How much does this cost? Oh, that's not helpful because it says here that certain types of armor give you penalties to any rolls made to sneak or remain silent. The problem is they don't actually tell you which ones. Probably the chain and breastplate as well as the full suit of plate. Chainmail, I'm not even sure. Probably not. I would say leather's definitely not. So she's at 12 AC. Okay, so this is now done, but she's also down 5 silver. So she's now at 413 silver. And Ifianasa needs to buy herself some... Does she have no money? She has 600 silver and she has to buy arrows. So she gets 600, she has 599 silver plus 20 arrows in a quiver. Okay. So, this means that they are now good to go. And basically, we rolled on our tables for the beginning of the story that they both have to go through a little bit of a prelude, as it were. And basically, one of them, Ifianasa, is attacked by religious nutters, and she needs to test strength. And if she does, she will remain untouched. So she on a D20, she needs to get a 13. No, sorry. An 8 or less. Okay, so that's going to be quite difficult. But we rolled a 9, so she basically lost that roll. This means that she loses 1 hit point, so she's now at 14. Plus, she is marked by these religious nutters. So what we're going to say, so she is cut in the face, and she has a bleeding wound, which of course she will staunch the bleeding, but it means that she will be affected by it, and this may leave a mark. And we're going to roll on Constitution, and on a 14 she is lucky. It doesn't actually leave a permanent, deeply visible scar. Hanapshili, on the other hand, engages in a drinking contest with a thief from the guild, and she needs to test Constitution. And she rolls a 4, which is a lot less than her constitution, which means that she gets a +1. This is what we decided. She gets a +1 on all tests with regard to getting into the location of the treasure. And now I would like to introduce you to something that I saw on That's How I Roll when he does his playthroughs, solo playthroughs of Shadow Dark. He's basically always using a 5, let's say a 5 room dungeon or 5 room whatever. We only have a 4 room dungeon. In this case, we have the entrance to the dungeon, and he basically uses a grid for this. So we're going to do the same thing. So this is the entrance to the dungeon. I'm going to call it E. And E basically is a point of access through a well-populated area, like a public building or a market square. And it is dangerous if we fail on our entry rolls. So basically people will try to keep us from entering, and so we need to ensure that if we do fail a roll, that we will have to engage in some fighting. Then we have the first room, which is then a trap. That's T. And there they recommend that it's a physical challenge, a traversal with difficulties or something, and there should be a DC check on an ability, and if a fail, it's a 1d4 damage plus -2 to all future physical checks, including combat, until we rest. Then we have the minor challenge, where we rolled that we're going to have 11 broken cogs, which are minor chaos demons or chaos spirits that also fight each other. So I have an idea of how we're doing this. I rolled that we have 11 of these, and I'm going to show you how I will try to mimic this. They're also fighting each other. And then we have the power that is guarding the treasure, which is the prize. And that is a monstrosity that guards the treasure. So this is the prize, PT, prize, treasure. And we are going to play through these. Now, why is it done like this? Why does he use hexes? Well, this comes from how Shadow Dark basically sets up its maps. It always uses hexes. And he basically always uses a 5 hex grid when he plays Shadow Dark solo. And you can actually download his Shadow Dark, let's say his Shadow Dark diaries, and that he uses for his campaigns for free. And I'm going to link them in the description to this episode. But I really like this idea because it really kind of illustrates also how you go through the dungeon, and it's kind of like because at the end of the day, even this way of playing through Sunken Lands or through Sunken Lands is at the end of the day also hex crawly in some respect. So basically, even when you look at how they create the world in Beyond the Wall, further afield, it's a hex that you basically populate. When you look at how they create the locations in the city, you could also start hexing this, and it would make sense to actually have a hex grid overlaid over this as well. So I like the idea of actually having these as hexes, because it also, even from a, let's say from a conceptual point of view, it shows exactly how they belong together. And basically anything can be abstracted in this way. So basically this is the way you traverse this. Okay. And then, of course, we're going to pull a Skyrim, where basically at the end of a dungeon, you basically, there is an exit. You don't have to march back. And here I have a good idea of what I want to do here. It's going to be a public official building, and I actually got some pictures from, or one really nice drawing from ChatGPT, because like I said, I cannot draw to save my life, but I like having visuals, and I basically asked for a couple of images, and for this one I actually asked for an official Greek building with a couple of armed guards that is populated by people who come here for advice, so it's kind of like a citizens bureau where they get something, and the idea will be to try and get into it. And when it comes to tests, what they suggest here is, and I really like it, it's called where was it? Luke Crane's slowest and loudest guideline, which he first describes in the Adventure Burner supplement to his Burning Wheel game. Using this rule, when characters are all attempting a group task, and in this case it would be our two ladies trying to get into basically the back office. So they are in this public building and they want to get into the back office where they know there's kind of like a way into the dungeon that is underneath this building where finally the prize is. They need to be sneaky. And by sneaky and stealthy, I don't mean that they have to basically hide, because they would have to, well, in a way they have to hide, but in plain sight, if you like. So it's not going to be like, I'm trying to hide in the fog, I'm trying to hide behind the potted plant, but I am in a room full of people and I try to be inconspicuous. So they would actually not be wearing their leather armor visibly. They would be wearing, like, you know, a toga or a peplos, so the female cloak that Athenian women would have been wearing. So not not telegraphing to anyone that, hey, we're adventurers and we have weapons and we're just going to break into your vault. So they're going to try and be sneaky there. And when we use the slowest and loudest guideline, we would be using the character that is worst at this. And they could also then be helped by another character with a fortune point. And we would actually do this because the slowest and loudest in this case would be Hanapshili, because she only has a dexterity of 11. So she gets no bonuses to this check. However, she got a +1 because she passed her drinking contest. And then we will ask Ifianasa to spend 1 fortune point. So she has 5 in total. And currently she has only 4. She spends 1 and she can give her help and give her the stealth +4. So now, whereas Ifianasa would be rolling against a 25 because she has a +3. Sorry, she would be rolling against a 22 because she has 18 +4 for stealth, which would be an automatic success unless she rolls a 20. A natural 20 is always a failure. We would now be looking at Hanapshili making the same check, and she would be rolling against her dexterity, which is 11 +1 because she passed the drinking contest. It's 12 +4, so she would be rolling against a 16. And she rolls a 2, which is a very good success. So the two of them manage to get in there. So they're probably kind of like, you know, waiting for an opportune moment. Maybe there is some kind of altercation going on, depending on what kind of building they're in. Let's say it's a harbor master's building and people are trying to find out what happened to the triremes that were lost at sea in the storm. You know, there's been a storm and now people are waiting to hear back from the triremes that had set out 2 days previously. Are there any sightings? So there's a lot of toing and froing, a lot of hubbub, people discussing, people saying what's happening. So they wait for an opportune moment, and both manage to slip unseen into the back office and get into the vault. So they have successfully managed this. If they had failed, there would have been some form of fight against guards, because they do recommend to use guards as a monster, as it were, as an opponent. So that would have been on the cards, but they managed to not get engaged in any altercation. So next is the trap. And with regard to the trap, I am waiting for a book that I've ordered. It's already en route. I will have it tonight. And we will roll up a really nice trap. And that's all from me for now. And we will meet again with our two ladies trying to overcome the trap. Talk to you soon. Bye. So here we are back. We are at the moment in the second of 4 chambers where we want to obtain the gem. This is the trap chamber. Now, if you recall, when we rolled up the adventure initially, we got the information that the trap was going to be it was described as a physically challenging traversal, a difficult climb, dangerous, perilous jump, dangerous run, something like that. So basically this is a good enough description because it also tells you it's a 1d4 damage plus -2 to all future physical checks, including combat until rest. Now you might say, okay, 1d4, considering that these are 2-level characters and they have between 15 and 19 hit points, that's not a lot. However, in this game, in this system, you don't heal overnight. You only heal 1 hit point per night. If you are lucky and if somebody has a relevant skill, and as you know, this is a skills light system and none of our 2 heroines has anything pertaining to healing, but if you did, then you might get back 2. So healing is very slow, and unlike, let's say, Shadow Dark, the idea is not that people die left, right, and center. I mean, in Shadow Dark, the idea is that it's super brutal, super lethal, you know, but that's not how Through Sunken Lands operates. So the penalty is a lot less severe if you fail. Now, this is a clear indication, and you could go with this description, some kind of, you know, like traversal that is dangerous. We could also take a look at, and we rolled on the traps table here, and I got a result which I would not want to play. Where did it go? Where are my traps? Where are the traps? Am I going blind? I am going blind. Traps, 114. And there are, you roll a 1d12, and the one that I rolled, I got the number 12. It's a cursed statue which casts a spell. The cursed statue is triggered by casting a spell. So unless you cast a spell, nothing happens. And it does a 3d10 plus petrifies you. So I would say you would probably, in this system, Shadow Dark, Through Sunken Lands, you would roll on your spell save, adding your wisdom modifier, but that's a really punishing one. But it only triggers, of course, if you cast a spell. We don't have any spellcasters, so that wouldn't really be a good trap. But one could also think about hazards, because they are, I mean, it says it's a physically challenging traversal. So if we take this and we roll a d12, Come out, wherever you are. Here we are. So we roll a d12. And we get our... Yeah, and we are going to need all of these d20s later. And we're going to get an 8. An 8 is a rushing water. Which basically, that's the... It's a movement-based hazard. It... You could also think about using it as damage, so falling debris, or you could say it weakens you because it's numbing cold. So rushing water would be an interesting hazard which we could use here. And we also have the Tome of Adventure Design Revised, which I got in the post yesterday. Now, lots of people have been criticizing this book, saying, oh yeah, but I mean, it's just a list of tables, and it is. And it never pretends otherwise. It doesn't say, buy this book and you'll be the master of game design. It does not. But what it does is, it gives you a way of kickstarting your imagination. And of course, they also have on page 347, I memorized the page, a list of traps. Now, I did look at them last night, and I don't think that they would work. Because basically these are like traps. But I mean, we just do what we are told. We roll a d100 just for kicks. And we'll see what comes up. And that's a 96. 69. And that would be a snare or noose, which pulls us up, which would work. I mean, that's also a dangerous traversal. We could also, so these are basic mechanical traps. Then we have mechanical traps, concealment, complicated triggers, and so on and so forth. So you can really spice this up, also depending on what your group can do. So here you've got one that is a trap which is concealed in pews or benches, and it's a complicated trigger. Sliding bolt keeps hidden gears from moving unless the bolt is pulled from its socket. So things are really in there that you could use. And it makes it a lot easier. But again, this is not going to tell you a story. It's going to give you hints. And if you're stuck for traps and you say, okay, I've got a group of high-level people who really are into solving, who are really good at disabling traps, you want to have something that is somehow a little bit more intricate. But what we're going to do is we are going to go with a rushing water that they need to traverse. Now, I will also say that our two friends have some basic adventuring gear. So they at least have a rope and a grappling hook. Because how could they conceal a rope? Well, you basically take the rope and you put it around your upper body. And since they're both wearing peplos, so the female ancient Greek garb, this would be really well hidden. And they also have a grappling hook. So how we're going to do this is, because I always like to give players an option of how to overcome a certain obstacle. So if it's possible, I would like to invite them to come up with different ways of doing this. So one would be to basically take the grappling hook, tie it to the rope, swing the rope, like try to basically catch it on something in the ceiling and then swing across. That would be a dexterity check. The other one would be to really jump very far, which would be a strength-based check. And since we have, because Hanapshili is also, in my opinion, quite heavy, so if she's hanging from this rope, it might easily come off. Whereas Ifyanasa, our thief, has very little strength. She gets a -1. And she has only got 8 strength, so she wouldn't be the strongest one, but she's super dexterous. So if you're thinking of this in 5e terms, she would be looking at an acrobatics check, and she would be looking at an athletics check. So Ifyanasa is going to use her grappling hook tied to her rope, and she's gonna roll on her dexterity, and she needs to roll under or equal to 18. And she rolls a 13, which is good enough. So she basically takes the grappling hook, throws it into the air, swinging it from the rope, and it catches and she can swing across. Now, it is Hanapshili who will have to do a jump. And she tests strength 13. And she rolls a 7, which means she also passes. So both of them make it across. None of them take damage, which is very important. So they also don't get any penalties. So they have managed to pass the trap. Woohoo! And now they come to the first kind of like antechamber. And we said that in the antechamber, they encountered 11 minor spirits of chaos, and they fight each other and any mortal that comes their way. There are 11 of these, and they're called broken cogs, and they come from the book. Okay, so basically we are going to try. So let's see if these guys hear that there are spirits that are fighting each other. So we're going to roll 2d20. We're going to take the black one for Hanapshili and the blue one for Ifyanasa. And Ifyanasa has an 8 and Hanapshili has a 9. So that would be a perception, so wisdom check, and they both pass. Because Ifyanasa's wisdom is 13, so on an 8 she passes, and Hanapshili's wisdom is on a 10. It is a 10, so on a 9 she passes as well. So they can hear those spirits kind of like arguing. And what is it that you want? And go away, and this is mine, blah, blah, blah. So they hear these voices, and they also hear some kind of altercation. And this is where the D20s come in, because obviously they are fighting each other. So now we're going to simulate those chaos people fighting each other by rolling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 D20s. Whoops. Okay. And this is an attack. So when you attack, then you always want to roll high. When you want to check your skills, or in my system that I've converted, also the saving throws, you want to roll as low as possible. A natural 1 is always automatically a success. Whereas when you attack someone, a natural 20 is always a success, and you want to roll as high as possible, and you add your fighting modifier to it. So we have 1d20. So that's, a 1 natural 20. So that's an automated success. So one of these guys is automatically eliminated. So we only have 10 left. Let's take a look at their actual values. I should have written down the page, shouldn't I? Chaos. I mean, one thing I will say is that the way the rulebook is structured with regard to where you find stuff is a bit... I would have wanted it differently, but nevertheless. Demons of Chaos, the broken cogs. They all have an AC of 14, and they get a +2 to hit, and do 1, and they have 2d8. So they have on average 9 hit points, which we will go with. And they do 1d6 damage, and they have a +2 to hit. Okay, so let's see. This one is already out, because we say if it's I say natural 20 means you double your max damage. So one of them has been taken out. So let's see. We have an AC 14 and a +2 to hit. So this one hits. This one hits. This one hits. This one hits. And this one hits. So that was a 13. So we have 5 more that attacked another of their fellow countrymen and succeeded. So, okay. So yeah, this is, they're basically moving. Okay, so let's see. On a 1, 2, 3, and on a 1, 2, 3, they attacked the same opponent. 1, 5, they did not. 1, 5, 2, 1, 3, they did not. And this one attacked the same as this one. So between the two of them, they take out another one. And these ones do damage to always not the same one. And we will say that this one takes 2 damage. Sorry, they do 1d6. This one, so he's down to 5 hit points, 7 hit points. This one takes also 2 damage, down to 7. And this one takes 1 hit point. They are down to 8. So what we see now is our girls are facing several enemies, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in total that they're facing. 10. And we have one of them at 7, 2 of them at 7, 1 of them at 8, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is a lot. I only managed to take out 1. Okay, so now our girls are seeing this and they're kind of like, okay, so what do we do now? Because fighting these is going to be a little bit difficult because there is only 2 of them and they can do 2 attacks per round, but they still need to see if they hit at all. So one of the things that they, because they were hiding, so they basically heard that something was going on, so they have been watching this, they've been watching these guys fight each other. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, can we kind of walk past them? So we'll do a d20 and see on a wisdom save, and this is going to be Ifianasa because she's the smarter one. Does she see a way around these guys? On a natural 1, which is a critical success, so that's an always on success, she sees a way around them. But they need to be sneaky. So again, we're going to use the law of the person who is the slowest and loudest. So that's Hanapshili. She will have to test dexterity, but our friend is going to spend one of her fate points. So it's now down to 3, and she gives her +4. So we're now rolling on dexterity 15. Remember, you want to roll low. That's a 17. She fails. So they are seen. That's not what they wanted. And now let's see how these guys react. Because they are, of course, sitting there bickering, kind of like, oops, there is somebody there. So, and here we want to roll as low as possible. These are cogs. They're 2 dice, 2 hit dice. So this means that they have a magic item save of 5. So we're going to take this to see how many of them actually, if any of them run away. This one doesn't run away. This one runs away. This one stays. These stay. This one stays. They all stay. These 2 run away. And so basically now 3 of them have decided to leg it because they're like, you know, I'm not having anything. And we're going to say that it's the 999 ones that run away. So we still have 2, 4, 6, 7. So combat ensues. And now how this works is it's all about initiative. And the initiative is based on the level and plus then any bonuses that you get. So Hanapshili has an initiative of 3. And Ifyanasa has an initiative of 7. So she definitely goes first. And she can see that there are some that are already hurt. So what she's going to do is she's going to take her bow and she's going to aim at the hurt guy. And she's going to see if she can attack him. And she gets a +4 to hit. No, sorry, that's Ifyanasa gets a +4 to hit, yes. And on a 5, 9, she does not hit because she didn't roll high enough. And Hanapshili goes next with a longsword. And she rolls an 11. She also does not hit. So now it's the first one. And he rolls a 17. That's definitely a hit. And he's going to attack Hanapshili because she is in close range. And he does a 1d6. So she takes 4 points of damage. So she is now down to 15. Next one. 16 hits. 6. Oh, that's not going well for our girl. So she's now down to 9. Next one. 9, that's not a hit. 9 is also not a hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we still have 3 more. Just going to roll 3 more dice. Not a hit, not a hit, not a hit. She is lucky because she has armor class 15. Next round. It's now our 2 girls who go. Ifyanasa goes first. Honest, she doesn't, and on an 18, Hanapshili does hit, and she gets a 1d8 plus 2 plus 2, so a 1d8 plus 4, a d8. 8, 12, that takes one of them out, and now it's their turn. So now we have 1, 2, 3. So one of them is out, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this one is not a hit, not a hit, not a hit. +4, so this one is a hit, so they all hit. So we do 3d6. 3, oh god, this is not looking good. 1. And she is down. So this means Hanapshili is down. And Ifyanasa is now on her own. Now Ifyanasa is going to, and this is very realistic now. So she is now going to run over and try and stabilize her friend. She's going to spend one of her fate points on this, fortune points. And then she is going to try and lift her and leg it out of there. So this is going to be super difficult. So she's not going to make it, obviously. So the adventure ends prematurely. So lesson learned. I shouldn't have rolled a 2d10 to see how many there were of these enemies, but you get an idea of how this works. So I really like the system with regard to how smooth it is, how quickly it plays as well. Not as quickly, maybe some people might say, as Shadow Dark, and it can be deadly, but that was because it doesn't say when we rolled up the I'm not even sure if it says how dangerous different encounters are, but in some cases they say you add the number of levels of characters and then you take twice as many hit dice. So we would have 4, so we would have 8 hit dice, so we would have had 4 creatures that would have been fighting them. And I think there they would have stood a fighting chance of actually making this, because these guys are tough. These guys are tough, and although we took out at least one on the first round because they were fighting each other, and I rolled a d20, a natural 20, it is a dangerous game. But basically that was down to me overextending the guys and overextending the whole combat situation. But I really like this, and I will have I still have not received my full copy of the book. So I only have my own copy, which basically doesn't contain the playbooks and scenario packs, because there was no reason to actually pay for them being printed, because I will always have them as PDFs anyway. But the book is serviceable, and what I would also like to point out, because I'm 52 or turning 52, it has a really lovely font. You know, I'm at the age now where I like looking at lovely fonts, and they also have black font on white paper. I really don't like it when they try to be faux parchment these days in some of the rule books, and you kind of end up going, yeah guys, this may look super, but I can't read it, especially not if I'm kind of like at a table or sitting in front of a screen, and you know, you basically have ambient lighting only, you want it to be kind of like a little bit maybe even cozy or whatnot. It is really difficult to read. So black font on white paper is the way to go. And I mean, they've interspersed it with blue color for the headings, and that is really, really nice. And I really love the font. It just looks nice when you look at it, and it is easy to read, and it's super serviceable. So that was our first foray into this game. With regard to what you get with the base rulebook, you get 3 of these scenario packs. And the idea is that you can just basically roll up a scenario while your players are creating their characters, because apparently this would work as a one-shot. You know, you basically meet, you roll up your characters, and then you start with this straight away. And since this is actually played in the great city, they wouldn't even have to travel. Now, I'm not sure how long this would take, because I remember that it took us ages to create the characters in Beyond the Wall. Having said this, in Beyond the Wall, you build the whole village. You basically say, okay, so what other things do you want there to be? You know, animals, husbandry, you know, bees, whatever. So I'm not sure if this would be something I would be able to do unless I had a whole day. Also, knowing my group, they would be completely starting building relationships and telling their own stories. So I don't think this can be done in a day or in one session, maybe if you have a day. But having said this, depending on your group, it can be done. Some people I've seen online said that they were unhappy with these scenario packs as compared to the ones for Beyond the Wall, because the Beyond the Wall ones were a lot more evocative and a lot more like telling, like a ready-to-play adventure. Now, unfortunately, I can't speak to the ones from Beyond the Wall because I never read them, because I was in a 4-year campaign, which is coming to a close tonight, actually. Finale is tonight. So I don't know, because I never read them, because I didn't want to spoil myself or anything. Also, I mean, you don't really read them because they are like, you know, you basically roll dice and then you cobble them together. So I don't know, but I have to say that when I look at such a thing, I don't expect it to give me a fully fledged story. I expect it to give me, and it does, and I mean, we saw it. This is just the dungeon, but we also have a pre-story. I mean, what else is happening? What rumors have they been hearing? And of course, if I wasn't playing solo, but if I was playing with someone, then of course this would have been played out. This would have been fleshed out as well. Of course, in a solo run through, that is less relevant, but you could have done it as well. So to my mind, you've everything in here that you would need for a one shot, or maybe even 2 shot, depending on, I mean, my group would probably take like 2 to 3 sessions to get through this. And then you also have the the road goes on. So if you're playing the scenario as a one-shot, surviving the dungeon and learning about the hidden treasure is probably interesting enough for the group. However, if you plan to continue with these characters on further adventures, which we would, it might be nice to give them a reward to help them in future endeavors. So what reward do the characters gain? What leads the characters to their next adventure as well? The GM may want to leave the players with a seed of future adventures involving the treasure. I wouldn't, because this gem, you know, there are all kinds of ways in which to do this. And then, of course, you know, you could roll on those and then basically start spreading the seeds from there. So to my mind, this is perfectly serviceable and absolutely fine. And like I said, with the game book, the basic rules, you get 3 of these scenario packs. 1 in the Great City, 1 in an island, and the other one is a wizard's tower. So that's more like a raid scenario, I suppose. But it basically deals with the 3 elements. Number 1, you have like the Great City, so it's a city adventure, Fafard and the Grey Mouser. Then you have the open sea, because of course the Sunken Lands are a submerged land. If you're gonna, you know, like play by the scenario background that is in the book. And then with regard to the Wizard's Tower, you have this element of very dangerous, very dark magics, because magics is bad. And so I think it basically gives you a flavor of all 3 of the main elements. And the idea, in my opinion, is not to just basically then, you know, leave it at that. I mean, you could, I suppose, but most game masters would be able to take this and then move on, because you're also building the world, and that's what we did as well. We built the world using the rules of further afield, which of course you have to buy separately, but it's completely serviceable. And we now have like 3 locations. We've got the Great City, we've got this city, and we've got this source of power, and we haven't even left, you know. So another thing with regard to traveling, I actually checked my own, and of course we have Hanapshili's homeland, which is an island, and we could go back to this as well. So we have 3 more locations that we could possibly look into. With regard to traveling, in Shadow Dark, they have an overland hex which is 9.6 kilometers. So we said 10, so that pretty much gels. Now the question is also, how fast do you travel? And she has lists in there of travel times, and I've actually stopped myself walking. I took my time and I measured it. So basically for 10k on a road, I need 2 hours, because my average walking speed on a road is 5.3. So 1 hex would be doable in 10 hours, possibly shorter if you really pushed yourself. And then this would mean 2 turns in terms of how it's done in Shadow Dark. So in the unsafe space, you roll for events every so often per turn, per number of turns. So here you would probably only roll once for an encounter, and an encounter doesn't necessarily have to be bad, because I mean, I've got this book, I think it's 365 or something, or 360 roadside encounters, and you have plenty of stuff that you could be doing there, and it could be just like, you know, encountering a broken down cart. How do they interact? What do they do? Do they do anything? Do they just walk past? But then, of course, different terrains, and here you would also have to check what terrains there are. We didn't really look into any of these terrains up here. We know that this is forest, we know that this is swamp, we know that this is grassland. Then you would have different encounters that you could roll upon. You would also have to check how dangerous this is, and there I would actually fall back on the Shadow Dark rules as well. And even in this, the Tome of Adventure Design also has dungeon design, non-dungeon adventures, so locations in a city, ruins, cities and settlements, but also waterborne, underwater, wilderness adventures. So you can, so unusual trees, unusual plants, mountains and wilderness tables. We could look at 493, what we see here. And if you hear very loud noises, I have really weird neighbors who basically seem to be tearing up the floorboards every day and then putting them back together. So basically you could see here they have like in the mountains, what does it look like? Map feature, barren area, canyon or crevice, cave entrances. So that would be the feature which we could put on here to make it a little more interesting. Then dressing. What do we find? Broken wagon wheel, carved rocks, corpse or bones from an animal. Hill or mountain legends, the cold mist, the murderous priestess, you know. So what are people in the area talking about when they refer to the hills or the mountains? Unusual cliff sides, what kind of fossils could you find? So these are all things that you can use to as a DM to basically make it a little more interesting. I would advise that you prepare this up front and don't roll on the day or while you're playing, because that's a bit weird. But if you're stuck for what they could be encountering and what they could be finding in on the hills, and make it a little more interesting, because, you know, they could find, so you roll on this table and they find something like, let's say a fossil, you know, they might want to investigate. It could be a dragon, so it could be a large lizard. It could be a kind of like a dragonkin. So what does that mean? Are there more? You know, things like that. Do they want to investigate? Or they find a cave. Do they want to go inside? What's in the cave? So this is how you would do it and how I would do it. Because you don't always have to kind of like have this huge, and this is true of sword and sorcery. You don't necessarily have these overarching huge stories that are being told, like, you know, Gandalf takes the ring to Mordor. Well, he doesn't, but you know what I mean. It is the small things that happen. You know, people are experiencing the lands that they live in. You know, the lands have not been charted as much, you know. Something new happens. These large lands are uninhabited mostly. There are some settlements, but mostly this is empty. And so it's like, I don't know, going west in the old days in the United States. The lands were not empty. Everybody who lived there was basically exterminated by the white man. But there were large parts of the land, even in Scotland, after the Highland clearances, that were simply empty. There was nothing there. There were traces of settlements there. So if you went there, you would see empty lands and you would have to reacquaint yourselves with them. And this is what you can do with these kinds of books. So that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed our Through Sunken Lands, a short foray into the Sunken Lands. Unfortunately, everybody died, but that's life. But considering how quickly you create a character, it's not that terrible either. So I can really recommend Through Sunken Lands. And if I ever get my hands on the complete book, if I don't get it after 45 days, I have to tell customer service at Drive-Thru RPG to resend it. Usually I never have any problems with delivery from the UK, even after Brexit, but sometimes things do go awry. And then we will talk soon with other games, and if I ever get my book, I will actually do a full review. Talk to you soon. Bye!